Hello, my name is Matthew Meyerl, and this proposal is for Dr. Gross's English 101 class. It is titled Point Protect Specific Trail Alignments. Point Protect Specific Trail System Alignments in and around the wildland-urban interface, culturally sensitive areas, and vulnerable ecosystems, to be more exact. And what does that mean? It is specifically building trail alignments in cooperation with prescribed fire and forestry objectives. Why is that important? I think there are a few different reasons, but most important is that Quincy is a small town in the mountains and we are surrounded by forests, like many other small towns in the West. And the responsibility to manage our forest while living in the wildland urban interface and prioritizing on planning is necessary for our survival. On the night of June 29th around midnight, lightning filled the night sky above Sugarloaf Mountain in Beckworth Ranger District of the Plumas National Forest. It was the start to the Sugar, Doda, and numerous other fires that were managed at the Beckworth Fire Complex. The Beckworth problem. For one, we were not ready for it. Previous year's North Complex was not a distant reminder, and fuels and conditions were more prime than ever. California locals were familiar, educated, understand at this point what a nasty fire season could look like, and being this early in the season with daily winds that are normally 3 to 5 miles per hour out of the southwest, coming in at 8 to 12 miles per hour, every day felt eerily the same. And then just over 15 days with a few big runs, the U.S. Forest Service reported the Beckworth Complex at, on July 15th at 100,531 acres. 100,000 acres in July is unheard of. No fire in recorded history had gone to 100,000 acres that early in the season in the Plumas, and a precedent was going to be set for the rest of the year. And the Dixie. The Dixie fire was predictable. I hate to say that, and I don't want to sound egotistical or like I know something more than somebody else because I, along with some other computer software that I'm familiar with, predicted the same outcome and the same pattern that the Dixie fire was going to travel. And it was based on what I foresaw happening at the Beckworth complex that early in the season. The daily winds and the pyrocumulus cloud that came off of the Dixie fire early on was all foreseeable for what was to come, and that was it going really far out along our landscape, eventually touching a million acres or very close to it. The response needed in other fires in the state had resources scattered thin, and officials were more concerned with more densely populated areas throughout the region. The terrain fire was going to be pushing through was harsh, undeveloped, and would be poorly prioritized for state officials, and the compounding fire weather conditions were more extreme than ever before. We had a lot of things going against us, and when that fire started in that harsh of environment, in that remote of a place, with the winds that were pushing every single day that they were, and having the foresight of understanding what happened with the Beckworth complex, it was easy to see that the Dixie Fire was going to be a monster. The cost associated with these monster fires approached $4 billion in 2022. Insurance companies have been paying out more and more year after year. Acres burned year after year, steadily rising. Um, See here, I'm getting approaching over 10 million acres a year on average is looking like it's going to be the normal. And as we can tell here, with these big spikes and these mega fires, 2018's Camp Fire, 2020, North Complex, Berry Creek community burning, and 21 with Greenville burning down. The trends are only going one way. The cost planning and time is extensive when building a trail network with alignments in conjunction with prescribed burning, but not nearly as extensive and dynamic of what losing more than 90 homes in a small rural community is for residents affected by wildfire, like those in Greenville. And I cannot reiterate this enough, but weather and climate trends are pushing patterns in a general direction, and we cannot forget about the realities of wildfire because of a few wet winters. Billions are being set aside for fuels reductions, but the funding has to prioritize forest health, resilience, and community safety. It cannot be left up to industry to find the solutions. There needs to be a balance between homeowners, forest management agencies, environmental and conservation advocates to find solutions with resource and timber extraction companies. The pendulum needs to move, but it cannot fully swing in the wrong direction with fuels reductions programs doing more harm than good. So what do we do? How do we do it? Use prescribed fire, use trails, forestry, community. We use the previously understood science that was created by uh, reputable agencies like the Tahoe Conservancy and the Pillars of Resilience graph here that is one of their 10 pillars of what they need for wildfire resilience, using social and cultural well-being, the benefits of prescribed trails in a community and what that does, and different documents in science, as well as creating partnerships that will lead to understanding for individual objectives to be had. We need to start working together better and understanding what each other want with maps that are unified for everybody to understand. And I think partnered education program and information transparency amongst participating agencies to create a map for unified understanding of individual agency organization objectives, known hazards, areas or cultural biological concerns, the potential for escape routes, safety zones, and landing zones in events of emergencies. The following list is criteria that I wrote for a document for trailside vegetation management, document created by the Sierra Butte Trail Stewardship in partnership with the Forest Service. I was asked to give my consultation about fire management in conjunction with prescribed trails, and in the process realized that there was importance to build a proposal specifically to trails around the wildland urban interface. And I came up with, when applicable, trails to be built parallel and in close proximity of existing man-made roads and natural ridges, for example, features that can also be used as fire control lines. Design trails in conjunction with predicted localized weather conditions that exist during critical fire season, i.e. more emphasis on fuels reductions with wider trail corridors in areas of wildland urban interface that have predicted season wind events. Trails built in conjunction with timber stand objectives to slow rate of spread and provide firefighters time for suppression with normal fire behavior. Trails aligned to allow for easy implementation of backfiring and holding operations during fire emergency. Create connector trails and cutoffs to create easy egress for firefighters when working in the wildland urban interface. Build trails around neighborhoods or communities in uniformity, close proximity, consistent and parallel to backyards that have adhered to fire safe standards for safe firefighter access and burning. Link trails around neighborhoods and multiple structure sites as much as possible, with grid patterns available for easy implementation of backburns or continual prescribed fire use. Consider top-down approach to trail design with prescribed fire needs in mind. Trails to be used as control lines for prescribed burning. Work with property owners to establish areas of concern, importance, value, or hazards while designating trails and avoid areas that are controversial or meaningful to landowners or managers. Avoid cultural heritage sites and preserve archaeological discoveries. Use fire mitigation specialists or personnel trained to use WUI software or software similar to it, and locate human hazards around the urban interface to map hazards and share information to fire personnel for safe implementation of prescribed burning and thinning procedures. Build to the specifications of the current state of the wildland urban environment and reroute trails prescription lines if land development occurs at a later date. Trails to be built at least 300 feet from legal dwellings. Here are some additional benefits to what I think is why I think this is important and what is going to come from it. The cross-training objectives from forestry will help in a few different sectors. Here is an example of some of the criteria from the trailside vegetation management concept. Proposal created by the Sierra Butte Trail Stewardship. Example, Here is retain all live conifer trees greater than or equal to 20 inches in diameter at breast height. Retain all live hardwood trees greater than or equal to 8 inches diameter at breast height. And live trees greater than these limits would only be removed, mitigated if they qualify a hazard tree on the Region 5 hazard tree guidelines. Here is a trail layout draft that is quick pin drop around Southwest Quincy. I put it as a high priority area because of the population, because of how dense it is, because of the southwest winds that typically come out of the area, because of the high density of forest that sits on the south side of town. And this is just nothing but a proposal of my ideas. There has never been any walk, layout, confirmation that this trail design would work in this specific area at all. There's nothing but a draft. All right, and here we ran a map of my proposed line of trail through planscape.com, and I was able to see a structure exposure score. Here you can see the edge of the wildland-urban interface and how structure exposures are higher and considered more high risk. Trail running right along that edge. Below it, a threatened endangered vertebrate species richness map that'll show where certain species are thriving or not, and then again with the California spotted owl habitat in the bottom right. And it shows that there's not too much to be concerned about this trail alignment in their area of dwelling. In the map above, if you notice the two different shades of map, the darker shade of gray and the lighter shade of white, the majority of the trail alignment going through the white is a bit of a problem because the white is private land and the gray being public lands typically have a little bit easier way of making something like this happen because there's only one document that has to be created for people to understand and agree on, and with so many different stakeholders and property owners involved, it's going to be much more difficult for people to come together to realize that this might be okay. But one reason I think this might bring people together and understand why this is a good reason is because properly planned trail systems around point-specific areas of concerns would have necessary buffers to stop normal fire behavior. And I think I can prove this with the help of some fire modeling software that is out there. Firecost.org has a way of potentially putting in these predictive modeling tools that I'm looking for to see if implementation of this could actually help. And if so, there's a chance that people in California or this community specifically, if we follow the guidelines to a point-specific proposal, we could be insurable again. Californians have been left with poor, limited, or no home insurance due to recent wildfire activity, and the solution could be from point alignments. As of now, the data sets that recognize areas as high risk do not allow for individuals to make changes after an area has been designated. But with a fully community protection plan built around the town, necessary fuels reductions could reach the stipulations needed for insurance companies to reconsider and come back into California. Working relationships with Delos Insurance Company and having insight with the developers in charge of designating what is high risk or not will allow for Quincy and surrounding areas that adhere to the principles in a point protect proposal to become a zone that could be prioritized for reconsideration. With that, I thank you for your time. If you have any questions or would like to add input or ideas for this proposal, please reach out, Matthew Meyerl. And you can find my information through the FRC directory. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.